So I apologize for not knowing my Bible better. For the rest of my life, I will spend more and more time memorizing the Word of God. For he says in 18, "For the word of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing, but to us who are being saved, it is," the word of the cross, "the power of God. For it is written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise, and the cleverness of the clever I will set aside." Babel, or Babylon, to build a city unto God, is cleverness. It's the wisdom of the wise. I'm going to confound it by confusing their languages. I'm going to confound Pharaoh by raising up a nobody nation out of their own nobody group called these Jews or Hebrews that are descendants of Abraham, that are growing leap and bound, who have no military force. They're my slaves right now, and they're great workers, and they're very productive. I'm going to take those people that you have no respect for, and they are going to confound you. They will defeat you. They will destroy you because I'm in them. I'm going to confound the glory of Pharaoh and the glory of his wisdom to build those beautiful pyramids, all the intelligence, even the signs and wonders that Pharaoh had, and all his soothsayers and his wise men, even what they had. Nobody respected the Hebrews. They were just slaves. They were less than. But God took the less than and confounded the wise. Just like back here in Matthew chapter 11. It was well-pleasing in God's sight, the Father's sight, to take the pride of man, destroy it with foolish things like preachers like me wearing purple Sanibel Island shirts, preaching to a laptop by a beautiful creek in Pilot Mountain, North Carolina. This is what God does. He takes a guy and puts it in his heart to preach with. Some of you are led to a street corner or in a college campus to sit on a stoop or a step and just proclaim the Word of God. Some of you just pray and walk campuses or walk your business plaza or your complex there where you pray over the businesses, or in your town you go to City Hall and you read the Bible or you pray with your friends. But you don't even know really why you're doing it. It's the foolishness of God to confound the wise, the City Hall, even Washington, D.C., which is surrounded by so much security at this time, we can't even get near the place to declare the Word of God to these people who so desperately need it. They're the wise of the wise. They're the caretakers of the state. And yet God is going to confound their wisdom, all their money and all their opulence and all their plans, their shrewd plans to control things. God's going to destroy the wisdom of the wise by revealing to us babies, nobodies, wild people in their view and estimation. He's going to give to us the hidden things, the hidden manna, talking about in the book of Revelation, the hidden manna. He says, Jesus says, eat that hidden manna, which is me. Eat me. Don't eat the wisdom of this world. Don't, have sex with Jezebel, that sorcerer. Don't do that. I know it's pleasurable, but that's not the hidden manna. That's not me. I don't operate like that. In verse 27 of Matthew 11, he says, all things have been handed over to me by my Father. And no one knows the Son except the Father, nor does anyone know the Father except the Son, and anyone to whom the Son wills to reveal. To anyone whom the Son wills to reveal. Did Jesus heal everybody in Galilee or in Judah? Only those who came. Did he know who's going to come? Even that boy, that man who was born blind. For such a thing, God said, through Jesus Christ, his Son, his anointed, that you were born for the purpose of one day getting your sight to testify that Jesus was Messiah, because that was one of the signs of Messiah, that he would heal somebody born blind and lepers. These lepers were lepers for just one purpose, to testify of Messiah. They were set aside. The ones who were healed were elect of God, set aside for such a time as this. And if you believe on Jesus today, you are the elect of God for such a time as this, to preach the gospel of Jesus, not argue about whether there is such a thing as sovereign election. God is bigger than your argument. The greatest commandment that we can obey is to go and preach Jesus to every creature. My goodness. Why argue over whether or not God is sovereign? If you're a Calvinist, go and preach the gospel, because you know more than the Arminian that God's going to save when the gospel is preached. You Arminian, if you believe that it's up to man, just go and preach the gospel. Some of those people that you try to decision will actually be true people of God. They'll really be born again. Some of them won't. And the same is true for the Calvinists. Some of the people will fall away. All people are given the opportunity to partake. Even those who go to church today. Are all of them going to be in heaven? No. Are all the Jews in heaven? No. Are all the Jews getting saved right now? No, but a remnant. There's always a remnant in every group. In the Muslims, there will be a remnant. In the agnostics, there will be those who get saved. In the atheists, and in the Buddhists, the Mother Earth people, the animists. There'll be a remnant that will be saved of these tribes of Indians who live far out in the extreme areas, in the unreachable areas. There'll be a remnant of them. Every tribe will be represented in the world to come. That's what the Lord's will is. For his people were scattered, guess what? Sovereignly. God scattered them sovereignly. He knew where every soul and all that blood DNA was going to go to one day regather them. Who can do that but God? If God doesn't have a plan to gather, there is no gathering. You and me cannot handle this. It's God who's raising up people to preach the gospel in our time with the energy and the fire and the heat and the passion to preach it, even when people don't hear. They just preach it anyway because God's in them, because he always has a remnant. That's the limited atonement argument. That even to Elijah, he said to bless Elijah. He said to bless Elijah. He said, I have reserved for myself 7,000 that have not bowed the knee to Baal. And could it be that one day represents 1,000 years? One person represents a day, and that there are 7,000 years in this planet Earth age for this time. Could it be? They were getting close to 6,000. We got another 200 years as far as the Jewish clock is concerned. It's hard to imagine another 200 years of what's going on right now. You know, I like to think 20 years, 2020 and 30, about 2,000 years from the days of Christ. And Abraham was 2,000 years before Christ. Kind of makes sense. 4,000 years, 2,000 here, 2,000 over there. But the Lord has always had a remnant, even when it was really bad, like in Elijah's day, and famine was in the land. There will always be a remnant. And in the end, when you read the book of Revelation, there's individuals that are called out that will not take the mark of the beast or take his name on their forehead or on their right hand. God will always have a seed on the earth, I believe. But I think even when the lawless one is here, there's a remnant of a few that are here. All I know is that there's always a remnant. God has reserved for himself 7,000 that have not bowed the knee to Baal. And in fact, if you just look at Israel today, that nation has in their registrar 7,000 Messianic Jews. They even recognize them now. They would not even recognize them as a people group. They would just ignore them. But it's changing slowly. Young people are getting saved in Israel. Hardest place to preach the gospel is Israel for so many years. For decades, since 1948, preaching the gospel to a Jew was so hard. It's getting better because people are over there preaching the gospel. And so when we preach the gospel, we know that people will get saved, Palestinians and Jews alike. He says in verse 27, anyone to whom the Son wills to reveal him. Come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Only the weary, only the heavy laden, only the ones under deep conviction right now who are feeling the weight of their sin, which comes from the Spirit. What is the Spirit's job? It says, I think it's John 16, somewhere in that section where Jesus talks about his departing, and he's talking to his precious disciples, and he tells them that I'm going to give you the Spirit, the Comforter. And this is the purpose of the Spirit, to teach you and to guide you. But this is what he does. He brings conviction of sin. He reveals true righteousness and judgment. So that's what the Spirit's going to do when he saves somebody, is reveal that he is a sinner, a lawbreaker. So you got to preach the whole law of God. And Jesus